So Don, maybe if you want to go to the next slide, please. Okay, so what are we going to learn about today? Well, really, our speakers today are going to be talking about Infor CRM and Microsoft Power BI, really kind of going over the core features of Infor CRM from a dashboard and reporting perspective, kind of going through that demo. And our other speakers are going to be touching on the Power BI, really kind of understanding how can you take your Infor CRM data to sort of the next level and be able to expand upon some of the Power BI features and tool sets that are available within Power BI in terms of reporting, analytics, new types of dashboards, dynamic dashboards, and also touching a little bit about sort of the AI features within Power BI from a natural language query perspective. So we have from the SimpleSoft side, we have Dan Minrisky and Terry Unger, and on the 5-star side, we have Corey Seaman and Helena Spencer be providing presentations on Power BI. Just a quick little snapshot about SimpleSoft and 5-star. SimpleSoft is an Infor CRM implementation firm in Ohio, and 5-star is a custom software development firm here in Pittsburgh. And we are a part of a larger organization called Revision Collective, which is an employee-owned holding company out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And we're part of another company as well called Engage Consulting, which is out of Cincinnati. And they do technology consulting, software consulting for a wide range of companies and manufacturing companies. So we're proud to be part of this family and proud to be an employee-owned companies as well. So with that, Dawn, I'll go ahead and toss it over to you if you want to start your presentation.
Yep, thank you, Doug. So good afternoon, everyone. As far as dashboarding with Infor CRM, I wanted to start by talking about kind of the requests, the needs that we hear from our customers, what they're looking for in dashboarding. So for our existing customers, they often ask us, what are the capabilities of the built-in dashboards? We will touch on those today, go through a couple slides talking about those features, and then provide a really brief demonstration. Customers also want to know, what can they do versus what we can do, and we'll talk about that as well. For the most part, with the built-in dashboards in Infor CRM, customers can do just about anything. There's only a little bit more that we might be able to do on the development side, but for the most part, all the functionality that we would leverage in the system is available to customers. Another thing we hear is user adoption, right? How can the customer ensure that their users are going to leverage the dashboard? So we really focus on embedded solutions, making sure the data is all in one place and the dashboards are all there, and that leads into embedding Power BI into the CRM as well. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Another question we get from customers is what predefined content is available, what dashboards are available out of the box, and what have we done for other customers? So some of our customers know exactly what they want in their dashboards. They either use them in another CRM solution when they migrated to Infor, integrated with their ERP. They know exactly what they want. And other times they really don't know and are looking for our guidance. So we do get those questions and provide that input. And then the last question is really often around security and access to the data. Who's going to have access? How do we manage that? And we help provide guidance on that as well. So having said that, moving on, I really want to talk about what options are available in Infor CRM. Now, customers on older versions of Infor CRM are familiar with the welcome dashboards. That was really the entity name, the icon on the left-hand side of the navigation bar, and that's the legacy dashboards. No longer recommended to use those, but if you're on versions prior to Infor CRM 8.5, that may be the only thing that you have today. On newer versions, the dashboard is the navigation. It's much newer technology, a lot more flexible and versatile. And that's what we recommend. All customers develop their dashboards in the product itself. The additional options for dashboarding with Infor CRM are Infor OS Pages, Power BI, which it's the focus of the webinar today, and then of course Infor Burst, another Infor product. So talking about the native dashboards for Infor CRM, They're included with the purchase. So if, whether you have, 2 licenses of Infor CRM or 100 licenses, the dashboards are included for all of those users. It really comes down to permission access, what you allow the users to do as far as creating dashboards and sharing those dashboards with other users. You can create dashboards with the CRM content. And again, if it's integrated with an ERP, also include ERP content in those dashboards. Um, so in the Infor CRM product, developing the dashboards does rely on the users having at least some knowledge of the database schema, the ability to create groups, because the group is really the underlying database query that the dashboard relies upon. So the available widgets that are included with Infor CRM, bar, bubble, column, donut, funnel, and a few more there, gauge. And the important one, customer journey opportunity Kanban. This is um, a newer widget that's available in versions of, I think, CRM version 9.1, which was released earlier, or I think it was December. Terry, it was December of last year, I think. Is that right? That's related to the new customer journey, which is replacing the sales process. So just a really quick screenshot of the dashboards, a group list, a funnel chart, a dial, very simplistic. This is the menu when I click on the drop down here, the hamburger menu, the capabilities. So the ability to create new tabs, add widgets to the tabs, rename, delete, and share. So this is functionality. Assuming a user has given all of the roles to modify these, this is the functionality that's available. Here's just an example, a screenshot of an embedded Power BI dashboard within the CRM. And this is access to the similar navigation. So whereas this one, clicking on the dashboard entity on the left-hand navigation, this one will be a custom Power BI. So as far as comparing those different options, for Infor CRM, the target audience is mostly the day-to-day users, sales, marketing, customer service, and support users. Those who are actively using CRM on a day-to-day basis. A good dashboard would be a sales funnel for a sales rep, a list of all of their open opportunities, maybe the opportunities that are scheduled to close this week or this month, maybe quotes that are waiting approval, that type of stuff. As far as the pros, the price, it's included for all users, like I mentioned earlier, and it's really easy to use and share those. The cons for the built-in product is it is more simple. There's limited widget types. There's no filtering or drill down capabilities. And they're not very interactive. There's a little bit you can do with lassoing and zooming in the data, but other than that, it's not very interactive. With Infor OS pages, there is a cost to that, additional cost to purchase those licenses from Infor. That functionality is also appropriate for everyday users as well as managers and executive management. The pros are it does support multiple data sources and does have some limited filtering and drill down capabilities, but really nothing like what MS Power BI, Microsoft Power BI has. So that's really designed more advanced, true business intelligence solution, more appropriate for managers, executive management. It's highly configurable, includes a lot of filtering capabilities and drill down. There is a moderate cost, but it is very, very flexible. And then the last solution that's available for the CRM is Infor Burst, which is typically for our customer base. SimpleSoft's customer base consists primarily of manufacturers, small and medium-sized companies, and Infor Burst, it's a very high price tag, and I would say that we have a very, very small number of customers using Burst, probably fewer than 5. I just bring it up to make sure everybody understands what's available. But really, we're going to continue the focus on Power BI today. So having said that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and allow Terry to take over and actually do a quick demonstration of showing the dashboards within Infor CRM.
Good afternoon. I'm going to get into the good stuff now. So what we're looking at now, it's my screen should be sharing, is a CRM environment. It is 9.3 and it has the standard left navigation over here that Dawn was talking about, where we see that dashboard for the native CRM dashboards. There are several dashboards showing here in the listing. You'll see this horizontal bar going across the top. Right now I'm looking at the samples bar or dashboard. This one has multiple items in it, and as I scroll down through it, you'll see that there are some items that, well, once this reconnects here, there are some items that we can actually go through and see the values. I'm going to go back up first here. So over here on the right hand side, this is a standard funnel. This is looking at sales, like around opportunity statuses. But I can filter some of this information down just by clicking on the legend over here. I can deselect prospect and I only see the remainders. So there is some interactive capabilities in your widgets themselves. If I scroll down, you can do this one here is looking at all opportunities, and it's comparing a potential value against actual. So I can have multiple data sources. It's still coming from the CRM groups, but it is allowing me to do data sources where I can do this comparison. And the lassoing or the drilling down is where I can take and just click and drag over a section and just see that subsection of data. And that's helpful when you have those disparate levels of values. So if I have really small ones and really large ones, I can zero in on the smaller ones and really start to dig into what might be going on here. And then I can also go back to my regular screen within that value. But the native dashboards allow you to do line charts, bar charts. There's pie, showed you a donut up at the top. You have your bar. And then you also have that list view that just is basically a group in the dashboards, and then I can click on it to go to that record specifically, which is nice for like open. Then you have the bubble. So there are a lot of native capabilities in the standard dashboards, and they're all related to the data that you have in the system and you define. So it's not limited to opportunities or sales orders or quotes. You can run it against the account base, the contact base, your leads. So you have a pretty wide open area of values that you can build, and you can create dashboards that are set for certain groups of people, like managers versus end sales users or marketing. You can build those dashboards based on the use, and the visibility is also driven off of the user's visibility to accounts. So if they're not allowed to see an account, they're not going to see the values or the results or the totals even calculated in their dashboards. So it does segment by security even in the dashboards. Now for the Power BI, you'll notice over here on the left-hand side, I have a Power BI item. And when I click on that Power BI item, it'll take me to the Power BI dashboard that is actually embedded just like this into the CRM. But I did want to show you that there is an alternative. That one takes, if you have to publish your page, and once you publish your page, you have to tell the system, I want you to go to this URL. And if you happen to have multiple pages that you may have published, it might actually be valuable to have a dashboard on this native dashboards that is looking at a link. So you can have a BI link to specific pages, and this will take you to the link of that published page. So you can have multiple links in your listing. It can be management, it can be, executive, you can have multiple links. And this link will actually take you another page in your screen and display your web page. And the Power BI embedded, so if I click over here in the sales Power BI, it's going to load my dashboard. So this is my published dashboard. And as you'll see up here at the top, I have some date sliders that I can use to segment my data. I have some visual maps down here that I can use. I have some drop downs where I can look at certain statuses or types on a quote or whatever the dashboard's set against. So I can look at just open records and it'll give me a subset of the data so you can see it's interactive and it gives me just the data related to the statuses that I'm looking at. So even my pie chart up here, you can see change to just open. So you have the ability to modify your data displays based on your selections or your date ranges that you want. Now that's all built into the dashboards, right? So that's all part of this is more a development type of task for somebody to go in. You just have to know Microsoft BI. But once you have your data sources, you can go in and you can build these dashboards and then display them. We have a different one that we were working on that's fairly new, where you can drive your there's some AI values that you can run through and build your display and your information based on the values that you're selecting. And so there is, as you can see, there's two tabs down here on this dashboard. So this dashboard actually had more than one page. So it does display embedded in the CRM with those two pages. Don, is there anything else you'd like to show? Or is that? Does anybody have any questions on that? Are we just going to do the Q&A afterwards? I can't hear you, Don.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I was saying, Terry, I think that's a probably good amount of overview for today, and we really want to move on into the Power BI stuff, unless there are any questions, Doug, that have come up through this first segment.
Yeah, Don, I think the one question that came up is, as you're viewing the Power BI dashboard, and this might actually, come up in Corey's presentation as well, but as you're viewing the Power BI dashboard, is this data real time that you're able to, pull out of Power BI and pull out of Infor CRM, do the necessary
Yes.
data analytics in Power BI? So the dashboard that they're seeing, the Power BI dashboard that they're seeing within the Infor CRM system, is the data real time?
It is. It's based off the Microsoft published page. So however that published page is set up, that's how it's going to display. So if it's set against live data, it's going to constantly be updating. The same thing for the CRM dashboards, the standard native ones. Those are live also in real time. So either one of those will give you that real time data displays that you need.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, so I think we can go ahead and have Corey, if you'd like to start your presentation on Power BI. Great, thank you. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Terry and Don. Just to touch on that briefly too, in terms of the real-time aspect of the data. Yeah, there are quite a few settings when it comes to published reports. You can set up scheduling around when you would like to have your data refreshed. There can be some limitations based on the licensing and the tiers of service that you have. But generally speaking, yeah, your data is either directly queried or it's cached in the cloud and available in real time or near real time. So my name is Corey Seaman. I oversee our development team at 5-Star. I'm an avid technologist who spends a lot of time architecting solutions and working with our clients to help them meet their needs, often with custom applications or cloud services like Power BI. As was mentioned, our other presenter today is Lena, and I'll let her introduce herself, I guess, in a few minutes. So to start off, let's talk a bit about Power BI as a reporting option. As you can see here, as a part of the evolution of Microsoft's Fabric platform, Power BI lives within that platform as one of the key products in that family. It has a lot of great synergies with Fabric. And although that isn't our focus today, a key thing to note is that it's not dependent on Fabric, Power BI, and you can use it as a standalone product, which many customers do. So off the bat, Power BI Online is a collaborative cloud service, and with its default per user licensing model, which you can see here, it's accessible to licensed users. It may be a little bit less convenient to have a separate login and a destination for your CRM reports, but if that's not an issue and you have a small team, then going into the Power BI portal to view and access your reports may be your sweet spot. But it is also possible to have Power BI reports embedded in your own content outside of that portal, as Terry just kind of showed you, and whether that's in your CRM portal or in an internet or intranet or a Power Pages site, etc. The embedded licensing is priced by capacity, so you can tailor that to your needs. So how do you access the portal? It's through your Microsoft 365 corporate account, which provides you with access to workspaces. We'll show you that stuff in a little bit. But those workspaces organize your reports and your other items that you have in Power BI. The default one is a personal workspace, and that's free, but the reports you create there are for your eyes only. Beyond embedding your reports, if you wanted to work as a team on your reports collaboratively, the collaborative workspaces are what require the licensing. So to touch briefly on the other two types of Power BI licensing, you can focus on the yellow here. They are Pro. Power BI Pro is, again, more the default. That's the per user model that's good for smaller teams. And Premium, which originally was just a capacity per organization type license that removes the per person limits that you have with Pro. They do actually have a per user premium licensing model as well. So we're not going to go into all the details of all of the licensing. Obviously, there are a few things that are simple when it comes to licensing, but if you have follow-up questions about your specific scenario, we can take those offline or answer those for you if we can. I'm going to switch over to my browser and we'll jump into the shoes of somebody who's responsible for managing Power BI reports and take a look at the Power BI Online interface or portal, as you might hear it called. This also, like I said, is shared with Fabric. So on the left side here, you have shortcuts for key functional areas. Then you have a line here and a workspaces shortcut. It'll show you below that your currently selected workspace, and then another line, and then below that are open reports and any other items that you have that are kind of in progress. The main panel in here gives you kind of two primary views. You have a list view that's by default, or you can switch over, and I really like this one. You have a lineage view, which shows you how the items that are in your workspace are related. So this is, just a sample manufacturing report, but you can see that there are a bunch of different data sources in here that consist of text files, CSVs, Excel workbooks. We have an access database, as well as other items and how they are driven. You can see all these different data sources roll up into one semantic model, and that semantic model feeds one report. So we'll talk about those different entities in a bit. But these are the two primary views you have inside of the portal. And then one of the first things that may or may not be useful to you based on the size of your team is a workflow tool called Deployment Pipelines. If you wanted to have reports that were in development and then kind of testing and then production, and you can do that with both reports and other items that are inside of Fabric and Power BI. So you can set those up and move them through these different phases in order to be able to have an explicit workflow for your team that is working on reports. And then another thing which you can use in here are what are called apps. So the best way to think of these is a way to package up reports for specific audiences. Maybe you have a project team that has, internal and external users that don't all have access to your workspace. We're not going to walk through everything here, but you can set up a package, you can add content to it, you can specify an audience. That content could be reports and websites and other things, and then you can publish that, and everyone in that audience will gain access to those reports and the other content that you publish. Then when we click on all the new items that are available to us, again, there's a huge number of options here, and a lot of those are not directly related. The gold ones are the ones that are most directly related to Power BI reports. You can edit or download to edit in Power BI Desktop, which is what we're going to look at in more detail in a few minutes. But you can click on individual reports here to edit them, load them up, and you'll see just from this view that this is a very similar, and it's designed to be a very similar experience to what you get in the Power BI Desktop environment as well. You also have dashboards. Dashboards have changed a little bit. I have one here I'll just kind of go into and take a quick look. They used to be able to have tiles that involved reporting data as well. Now it's less about that. You can still put in web or image content, but it's designed for more real-time data that you might have from other real-time data sources. So you can take that for what it is. It's something where you probably will have dashboards, or you probably have reports that are set up more to look like dashboards than to use the native dashboard functionality inside of Power BI. Then you also have semantic models. And semantic models are formerly called data sets. They can be used across multiple reports. They store multiple connections. They store your own transformations to the data that you have in your reports when it's loaded. They cache the data that's used by your report, as well as storing calculations and measures that are used to aggregate and transform your data. They were renamed, to semantic models to reflect that broader role, since they're more than just a simple collection of data. I'm going to jump over to Power BI Desktop now. And as with the web portal, we'll kind of first take a brief tour just through the desktop app, and then Lena's going to walk us through a quick demo to show you how you might apply Power BI to your CRM data. The ribbon data, the ribbon menu up top is probably familiar to you if you are a user of Microsoft desktop products. There are quite a few options that are available to you, and all fairly intuitive in here for dealing with aesthetics, different types of visualizations, being able to apply theming, embedding Power Apps, Power Automate, other paginated reports, which you may want to use, as well as a bunch of different types of visual elements. One of the main things here is the fact that you can add data from anywhere. You'll see the common data sources here include databases, files. Those files could be local or cloud-based. Services, cloud APIs, CRMs like Infor, services like QuickBooks, etc. One of the things I want to look at really quick is transforming your data. This brings up the Power Query Editor. This uses the M language, and don't be intimidated by that. It's not something you necessarily have to be an expert in order to use this. A lot of this, as you'll see, is available, and there are a lot of drop-down menus in these ribbons that give you very intuitive options on how to apply changes. This tool is used basically once you have your data sources picked out. This can help you refine that data. If you have, dozens, hundreds of columns in a table, you can reduce that just to the data that you want to see in your reports. You can only show data that's applicable to certain roles or groups, like Don and Terry were kind of talking about. Because it's an outside external tool, there's not that automatic filtering that you would get with the in-house version of reporting in Infor. So you would have to do some filtering here to make sure that data was restricted to certain groups, but this is one place that you could do that. Maybe you only want to show current calendar year data. You can apply those kinds of things. So the steps that you apply as you are, combining a column of first and last name into full name, or making sure you only see a current year's worth of data, etc. All those steps are applied in here. And then those steps can be saved inside your semantic model. And these, as I said, get applied every time you refresh your data. Probably want to kind of move on from that because it's quite a bit more to cover. So um, when you want to go back in and add data sources, and you can add multiple data sources, as many as you need, um, you can see here how many there are. I mentioned some of the different categories. You can search for those. There are quite a few, and they involve a lot of specific providers, and there are some generic ones that you can apply as well. If you select a SQL Server data source, as you'd have with an on-prem Infor CRM kind of implementation, you provide the credentials and the connection information for your database, and then you have to make an important decision between import or direct query. Uh, Data that is imported comes from all of those sources I mentioned and is cached in the Power BI file. And this is recommended because it allows the best use of Power BI Desktop's high performance query engine. You can refresh the import mode data on demand. And as I mentioned kind of at the very top, scheduled refreshes are also configurable, and some types of file data like that lives inside of SharePoint or OneDrive, those are on an automatic hourly refresh. If you want to access data where it lives, that's done through a connection type called direct query. Sounds like that might be the more preferable mode since it accesses your data directly, but it's usually not recommended since it's dependent on connection quality. It involves a lot more of kind of chatty back and forth with your data sources. So different selections are better for different scenarios. And there are a good number of blog posts and other kinds of things out there that cover that. A few other things, there many-to-many relationships are now supported. They haven't always been, as well as you can have multiple direct query connections inside of the same model. So if you're familiar with Power BI at all, that's called a composite model. If that's something you were to need, that was not also available previously, but it is now. All right, so moving on. We have a table view in here. Once you've got your data sources selected, all the tables of your data will show up in here, and you can view and work with your raw data. You can also do some things like editing measures and calculated columns. You can see here I have this total units sold. This does a calculation, does a sum on sales data table, units sold. All except is basically a function that makes sure that the filters we're applying in our report don't apply to this calculation. This is a language that's called DAX, data analysis expressions. If you're familiar with Power Pivot and Excel, you may have worked with this before. Again, pretty intuitive and straightforward. It's useful for time intelligence, budget versus actual kinds of comparisons, ROI, various other non-trivial kinds of aggregations, but you can do all of that inside of here in your table view, editing of all that stuff. In the model view, this shows you all the relationships or the schema of your different data sources and all the tables that live inside there. You can break those down into smaller views. If I click the plus button, it'll give me a new layout, and I can look at a subset. If you have a particularly large schema, it might be helpful to just visualize some of these at a smaller level. But when you click on individual relationships between your entities, it actually will highlight the columns on which those relationships are based. You can see things like the fact that this is a one-to-many relationship. And when you double click on that, it gives you an intuitive interface to be able to edit those relationships if you want to change the way that data is filtered and how it's related. Or you can add or remove those relationships as well. In the report view, this is kind of your main work area. You can build reports from scratch. You can build them from templates, or if you're using Fabric, you can even start with a semantic model and have a report that's completely AI generated by Copilot. That's something that we can't demo today in this environment, but we could follow up and show you how that works if you're interested in something like that. As Terry mentioned, you have multiple pages per report that are supported here. Within those pages, all of the components that are on a page are interactive and interdependent based on the underlying semantic model. So when you go into an individual page and you select something inside of a particular pie chart, it's going to filter all of the rest of the data across all the other components by what you selected and apply that as a filter. all the visualization types that are in here, which include most of the ones that Terry kind of covered in the built-in tools. These are all included by default. There are some additional ones that include mapping and others. There's a marketplace that has a lot of free and available for purchase visualizations, and there are toolkits to be able to kind of create your own if you wanted to go to that extent. So that's, again, just kind of the quick rundown of these environments and how you would work with Power BI. At this point, I'm going to hand over the presentation to Lena, who's going to kind of walk you through the Power BI report template that Terry's previewed with some of the data that you might see on a daily basis.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. Hi, everyone. I'm Helena Spencer. I'm a software developer here at 5-Star, and I will go ahead and share my screen just so that you can see what I'm seeing. Okay, so yeah, as you can tell, we pulled up the sample dashboard that we created for SimpleSoft in the Power BI desktop, just to kind of see how things are configured behind the screens. Yeah, thanks, Terry, also for kind of showing how it can be embedded within the Infor CRM dashboards. But from the development side, we used a subset of the database. So you can kind of see here, we've only used years 2014, 2015, and also limited the amount of tables that we brought in just for simplicity. But the biggest thing to highlight here is the interaction component between all of the visualizations. So if you were to click on one of the charts, you can see that it kind of filters down even the map visual to show only the data that's relevant to whatever the data is that you clicked on. So in this case, it's the employee Lee Hooken. And you can simply just click out of that and it'll kind of reset everything for you. We have the date filter as well. So you can filter down to a specific year, and that will also filter down all the visualizations, as well as some of the filters that Terry had showed earlier. And we can also see some of these other AI generated visuals that we can add into this dashboard at whatever time. So for the first one at the top, we took the sales potentials and broke them down by stage and status. And you can kind of see here it orders by the percentage that the stage that is of the sales potential. So you could see here the majority of them are in this decision stage. And of those that are in the decision stage, we have the majority being closed or won. And if we wanted to also see notes about any of those particular sales potentials, we can expand this AI visual and it'll give us some of these notes that we can kind of see at a high level, maybe how that sale itself was won. So that's the first AI visual. And the second one, you can actually ask questions about your data. So if I just wanted to type in where are companies by state, you can see that it gives me all of the states that are listed within our accounts table. And if I wanted to maybe see where are companies by state on a map, it'll generate the map visual for me, plotting all of those states in their particular locations. And if we liked this visual and said it was all good to go to add to our dashboard, we can actually convert it into a standard visual to then figure out how we want it to be formatted back on this dashboard. So those are kind of the two big components of what Power BI offers. If you ever needed to kind of go into more niche views, like Corey mentioned, you can see the table data, as well as the model view, which we are removing some of the tables because it just wasn't necessary for the users to see them within report creation, but are important for the underlying schema. So yeah, that's kind of the sample that we have for you at a high level. I will give it back to Corey to discuss more. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Lena. Yeah, that's a great intro into how reports are built and gives you a bit of a taste into the rich features and ease of use that Power BI brings to the table. I mean, all of those different AI components, like the Q&A. There are also some that deal with key performance indicators and the natural language query, especially, and the ability to kind of drill down through different types of your relationships and see those connections is pretty powerful. So at this point, maybe you're thinking about whether Power BI reporting could be a good fit for your CRM reporting needs. Maybe you're even considering beyond that if you have other operational data to tie in or some legacy data sources that are still sitting out there, as many people do. What you should ask yourself really is what category do my reporting needs fall into? Are they really more personal BI? Do you have one employee to handle and build everything, a library of spreadsheets, or maybe paginated reports and SQL Server reporting services? Maybe you've dabbled with Power BI Desktop before. Are you looking for more self-service? You kind of have some citizen developers or data professionals who can build their own reports as needed. Maybe you'd prefer to have some dashboards from templates to start with, just as a starting point, and can kind of run with those. Maybe you have enterprise level reporting and data management. You have a single curated source of truth that's centrally managed for your organization or larger organization. Maybe you have that governed by some level of regulation or security. If you're in that category, that does warrant consideration of Fabric, I would say, as well, which we didn't really scratch the surface of today. But secondly, from there, would you benefit from having your data in one central location? Again, whether it's from all those different types we mentioned, databases, files, services, wherever, and use that for deeper statistical analysis or forecasting or real-time monitoring, exporting it to other partners. That question rarely has a simple yes or no answer, but asking it will kind of help you discern a good direction for your data management. And if it's a possible yes, then I'd recommend, again, looking beyond Power BI at the Fabric ecosystem. And if you need more information on Fabric, we're possibly looking at a future webinar that's dedicated to that, or you can reach out in the Q&A and chat, or to one of our team members with any of your additional questions afterwards. To summarize things that we've had the chance to explore today, we looked a little bit at some of the Power BI licensing options, kind of took the nickel tour through Power BI online portal with a glimpse of how it integrates with Fabric. We drilled into a few of the features in the portal where you can look at your reports, models, dashboards. You can manage your workspaces there. That is also the place where you can look at the security and access by employees and set up who has access where. We didn't really have a chance to look at that in depth, but and you can use the productivity and deployment tools there for your entire reporting and data management team. We looked in Power BI Desktop. You can load your data, as many data sources as you need there, into your semantic models from anywhere. You can edit your measures and relationships between your data tables, build reports with dozens of different visualization options, including AI visualization ones like the decomposition trees and Q&A. So as far as next steps go, hopefully we've shown how accessible Power BI is and provided a little food for thought regarding how your organization might start making use of it with your Infor data, and maybe beyond that. There are a lot of new features that both Power BI and Fabric, I know, are rolling out on a monthly basis. Even if you look at their online roadmap, Microsoft is really evolving this platform into a great one-stop shop for your enterprise data needs. So whether you'd like some starting report templates, some further training for your team, a proof of concept to kind of demonstrate value to your organization, or just some answers to a bigger list of questions maybe that you've gathered after what you saw today, the whole Revision Collective team is happy to help you get started there. So with that, I will hand it back to Doug.
Yeah, Corey, thank you so much for that, and really appreciate all the speakers and the presentations today. I do have a few questions that I'd like to present to the team, kind of open up to everybody. I think most of the questions are more towards the interest in trying to understand the data flow and as for how this Infor CRM data works within Power BI. And the first question is around: are there any specific connectors or third-party tools that are required for that integration of data that needs to move from Infor CRM to Power BI?
Yeah, they're beyond the built-in SQL Server connector for on-prem. There are not specific ones, I believe, that deal with the getting data out of the online service, but there are generic ones that can be implemented in order to do that. And again, depending on where, if you wanted to have an incremental place to store that data, there may be a few ways to kind of skin the cat there, but generally nothing additional beyond what's out of the box with Power BI.
Sounds good. And there are a few questions around security and data accuracy. One question that came through is, how can I ensure data accuracy and consistency when importing from Infor CRM to Power BI? Are there any issues or concerns around that? Best practices, things that need to be addressed while data is being moved back and forth?
I can take this one, Corey, a little
Sure.
bit. So I don't know if you remember, but Corey did show a Power Query window where when you upload data, all your tables will show within that window. And it is best practice to kind of spend time primarily on the data cleansing and transformation processes to make sure that you have that data accuracy. Because sometimes there are data types that when transferred into Power BI may show as null or zeros and you want it to show as something else. So there are tools that you can use to make sure you replace those or simplify and get rid of any data that seems like it's not supposed to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are some other security features and things, if you want to make sure that only the right people are accessing the right data, there are things like row level security and being able to kind of parameterize your reports in such a way that, they're aware of how they're being viewed. And you can set some of those parameters from the outside and again, make sure that the right data is being viewed. Another way to kind of do things is to set up your semantic models in such a way that they may be categorized by group, and you may try to just ensure that you have certain reports that are these are the executive level reports versus others, and you can have the semantic models configured in such a way that only the correct data is accessible, and then once that semantic model is used inside of the report, that's just used as a funnel to make sure that only the right data is accessed through that.
And just to throw this to the SimpleSoft team, Don or Terry, is there anything on the Infor CRM side that, from a best practice standpoint around data accuracy and consistency around good data quality, is there anything that can be done within Infor CRM prior to moving data over to Power BI?
Yeah, I'll take
Well,
this one. Oh,
go ahead,
we
Terry. I'll
both
let
have
you go
something to say
first.
about it.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so there's always system configuration that you want to manage your data in general in the CRM, not even, thinking through your Power BI and these external dashboards, but just in general, you want your data clean in the CRM. And the way to do that is to control the user's inputs because trash in, trash out type concept. So if you are managing your data and you're controlling what the users can put in, so if it's a number field, they can only put numbers in. If it's a state field, they can only, select from the list of specific states. I have seen all kinds of things in state fields, zip codes, address lines. So being able to have that type of information controlled at the front end and the configuration end, and the CRM does allow you to do that. That is one of the important things, is to clean it up on the beginning instead of trying to go up and catch up at the end. So I'm done with my speech. You can take over, Don.
Well, I mean, that's all great stuff too, Terry. The thing I was going to mention that we always recommend to customers is assign a data steward in the organization and make sure that that person understands that their responsibility is to keep the data clean. Using just the group lists in CRM, it's very easy to identify some bad data for cleanup. I know Terry mentioned using pick lists, especially around a good example is always the state field. You can lock down the state pick list, so users must pick from the list of the 50 states, DC, maybe the Canadian provinces if you're mostly domestic. But it's easy to use the filters to identify bad data, missing state values or missing contact titles, that type of stuff. So assigning a data steward and um, really having them establish a schedule for regular review and cleaning of the data. Doesn't have to be daily. It doesn't even have to be weekly, but it should be done at least on a monthly or quarterly basis. So that would be another recommendation. And that's regardless of whether you're using, as Terry stated, of whether you're planning to use Power BI for dashboards. That's just a good standard practice.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Don and Terry, for expanding upon that a little bit. I think we might have addressed this a little bit and through the demos and maybe answering a couple of the other questions, but just wanted to zero in again around security and compliance. A couple questions came through. What security measures should be taken when integrating CRM with Power BI? I think there's always a concern around data security, and when you begin to kind of move data, back and forth between systems, there's always there's always a concern around making sure that the data is secured. So what type of measures should be taken to ensure that, and what type of features and tool sets does Power BI sort of offer to ensure that data security?
Yeah, I did think of a couple others since the initial kind of mention of this area. Um, you have the ability to, first off, within your semantic models, when you have these published to Power BI and the online portal, you can set things up in such a way that only your administrators within Power BI have access to manage those semantic models. And again, those can still be used for data consumption. But for example, the connection string information and the credentials that are used to access your database, those are stored securely so that only your admins have access to those. And then you can also, at both the semantic model and the report level, you can set up completely. And again, we didn't dive into this much, but you could completely configure what groups within your Microsoft 365 tenant have access to those reports. So again, if it's done by group or individually, the ability to read and or edit those reports can be very granularly controlled. And then beyond that, again, as far as group related stuff that's related, inside the database that upon which all your data is broken down, you can set the report semantic models to honor those settings so that the right people are only seeing the right things.
Great, thank you. Don or the team from SimpleSoft, do you want to add anything around sort of data security and sort of what your experiences have been around best practices for that?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Just see if there's any additional questions that have come through. I think we've moved through most of the questions. Again, a lot of them are around data security, just making sure that the data is cleaned up and it's accurate, it's consistent. You have good quality data between both systems, and just ensuring those best practices. I think we addressed a number of those issues. There was one that came up around scheduling refresh of data. I think maybe we might have touched on that, but I don't know, Corey, if you want to expand upon that a little bit, just making sure that people are able to schedule, or if they do need to schedule data refreshes within Power BI from Infor CRM data.
Yeah, it's not required. There are some defaults, and again, it does partly depend on the licensing model that's used. But yeah, if you are using imported data and you have those semantic models that are published to the Power BI portal, then you will have access to the most recent batch of data that has been cached in that semantic model. And again, if you're accessing it through the portal or if you're accessing it through Power BI Desktop, the tool, you can manually refresh at any time. And then again, depending on the data source, if it's a SQL Server database, then that can definitely be scheduled if you'd like. But by default, I think without any scheduling, it'll pull data twice a day, but it's fully customizable.
Yep. Sounds good. Perfect. Yeah, I think that certainly addresses that question. Thank you for doing that. Well, listen, we are about 4 minutes ahead of schedule, so I'd like to be able to kind of give some time back to the group so you're able to kind of get on with the rest of your day. Really appreciate everyone for taking time to attend our webinar today. Big thanks to our presenters. A lot of work went into putting together this information and kind of, figuring out the right message to make sure that everyone understands, the wide range of core features within Infor CRM, but really being able to take it to the next level in terms of your data analytics within Power BI. So we hope this information was helpful to you. We will be sending out the recording link to the entire group. I will be sending it out. So if there's any additional questions, please follow up with me. Be happy to connect with you. If you are interested in learning more about Infor CRM in terms of its overall core functions and features, and see whether or not SimpleSoft might be able to help you to implement Infor CRM or expand upon your current system, please reach out to us. We'd love to be able to help you with that. And also from a 5-star perspective, if there's an opportunity to really kind of take your data and expand it upon within the Power BI platform, if you're interested in learning more about that and understanding that implementation, we'd love to be able to sit down and talk with you and to help you understand how to take advantage of that in the future for your operations. So again, thank you so much for taking time with us today, and we'll be sending out the meeting recording